Say hi, girl. Say hello. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a really long time since I've filmed a video. We're just gonna do a little recap on what has happened since my last upload. And then I'm also gonna do my makeup, so we have two things to kind of focus on here. Let's see, I stopped doing Twitch because that's what the last thing that I had kind of focused on. I stopped doing Twitch and YouTube to kind of just really focus on school. At that point, it was my last semester. I also kind of stopped working for that period too, just to really make sure I got it done. It had taken me a little bit longer than it should have. I kind of had my eggs in a lot of different baskets. So it was just time for me to either focus and finish or move on. I graduated in 2023. I got married the week after graduating. And then we kind of took a little bit of a trip to Washington, which I actually did vlog. And I do plan on uploading that. So I will upload that probably after this one, because we did a lot of cool things actually during that trip, so I do want to upload that. We came back home to Vegas. I started applying for jobs, and in August I had 2 job offers. One that would require me to stay in Vegas for the next 2 years, and another one that had a better title and wouldn't require me to stay in Vegas for 2 years. So I took that one, and it ended up being a very big mistake. There were definitely a lot of red flags that I just kind of looked past because I really wanted the job. At least I thought I did. Anyways, I did sign an NDA, so I can't really talk about it. So maybe we'll talk about it one day, but today is not the day. It ended up being horrible. I quit 3 months in. Like literally I was days away from my 90 days because I was literally hating it so much that like I would cry to go in. But anyways, one day I would really love to like talk about it more in depth because it was freaking crazy and wild, that entire experience. And I'm still a little bit traumatized from that, I will say, because it was something. Anyways, I jumped ship and I just kind of went back to one of my old jobs because at that point we were a couple months from moving to Washington, which we had decided we were going to do. Once we got married, we decided we would move here because this is where my husband's family is, and we do want to have kids at some point, and it would just be helpful to have family around. My family's in Hawaii, and I don't think I would ever move back there, to be honest. We're in Washington, fun. I will say the time between us getting married and before I got that traumatizing job was pretty great. The only downfall of everything, I guess, was me taking that job, because at that point we were like about 6 months from moving to Washington. I didn't really feel like going through the whole interviewing process again, especially because there was not a lot of jobs in Vegas for what I wanted to do. There was maybe 1 or 2 listings like every 2 weeks. It was pretty bad. There just wasn't a lot of opportunity there. We thought it would be better here. Kind of after quitting that job, I kind of spiraled. I didn't know if I had made the right choice, even though I was very, very unhappy there. I kind of spiraled because I kind of had felt like I had made it at that point, and that was supposed to be my first job. It was a really good title. So at that point, I didn't really know what was going to happen. I was only at that job for like 3 months, and I gained so much weight. I think it was from stress. It might have been because it was an office job, but to be honest, I would walk to the Starbucks nearby, which was a couple blocks away, and we were going to the gym, I would say, pretty regularly, not like every day, but we were going multiple times a week, and I gained so much weight in just those 3 months. It was just a very traumatizing experience. So that added on to kind of my unhappiness in Vegas. I was happy to leave that job, but I also kind of felt like I had failed in a way. Went back to my old job, and at that point we kind of just waited it out until we moved here. There were a lot of things we had to do before then too. So we moved to Washington. We did road trip, and we had to take Little Moose in the car, which he hates being in the car. We had to give him some gummies, some calming gummies, which kind of worked for the most part, but it is a very long road trip. I think it was about 2 or 3 days. So at some point Moose got used to being in the car, but he was definitely not loving it. I think I'm gonna insert any like little videos I might have from the road trip, because I definitely have some. And Moose's first little road trip. Come on, baby.
Alright, I guess we're gonna have to stop
somewhere. Oh, this is not pulling on his... Oh, no. We got him here, and our plan when we moved here was to move in with James's parents until we figured out if we were going to buy or rent, where we were going to move to. The rent here is a lot higher than it was in Vegas, which I already knew coming into this. I told James that, but he decided that we were going to buy a house. So kind of once James decided we were gonna buy a house, we had to kind of wait a couple months, save up, kind of figure out everything. So we ended up being at his parents' house for a lot longer than I thought we were going to be there. I had pretty much lived alone since I was I 18? Yeah, I'm pretty sure since I was 18. So it was very different. Also, their family dynamic is a lot different than mine was. So it was something to get used to. It was very difficult for me, but at this point we're on the other side, and it's not anything against them. They're great people. It's just, it was very different from how I had ever basically lived, and it was pretty tough on my mental. It was just a very hard time. We started looking for a house in December through Redfin, actually, and our realtor, she kind of gave us some ideas of where to look, but we, like, obviously because we were in that situation, I kind of had a little more urgency to get a place. If you don't know how Redfin works, you basically have an app and you kind of just favorite all the houses that you like. You can ask to tour, and then you usually tour not with your realtor. It's usually just with whoever's available in the area, but your realtor kind of handles it all once you pick one. I was on that app religiously trying to see where we were going to move, picking out places that I liked, seeing what we could even afford. To be honest, I didn't even know if we would be anywhere in the greater Seattle area, or if we would have to move more east or to like Chehalis. It made it hard to job hunt for sure. So I kind of just stopped until we found a house. We did end up touring 3 houses. The first one was already pending, which was crazy because it was just listed. It was just a couple days. It wasn't even a week. So that made us realize how fast the market moved here, even though it was December. And our realtor said it was a little bit more of a buyer's market. That was a little bit of a shock to us. But that house was literally down the street from my in-laws. And then when we were touring it, it was just a very uncomfortable experience. They didn't even know we were going to be there. I got the new toffee blush. I want to see how well it works. I tried it yesterday actually, but the powder was a lot more pigmented than the old one, and I looked just sunburned. Right now, just the cream looks really cute, and it was very uncomfortable because the people who own the house were there and they were very unwelcoming. I was like immediately no. There were a lot of things I didn't like about the house. We very quickly left because I was very uncomfortable. I didn't even really care to look at the house anymore. So then we went to one that was very, very, very cheap. It was a house that had gone into bankruptcy, and just looking at it, we realized how much work it would be. It was still an option because it was pretty cheap and I liked that area. That was one of the areas that I was considering beforehand. It would need so much work because it was a little bit destroyed. It was very out of date too. And there was also this creepy little door underneath the staircase, but I thought Moose would love to just go under there. So the third house we looked at was in a different area completely, and somewhere we've never been, which kind of excited me a little bit because I had been in like the same couple areas for the past 6 months, and I honestly wasn't in love with any of them. This was also the house that I had liked the most from the pictures because there was a lot of land with the house. Not like a crazy amount, like not anything too crazy, but in Washington, I would say it is pretty difficult to find a house with land. Most of the houses have the tiniest little backyard in the back, and they're all like copy and paste houses that are incredibly expensive, and they all look the same. So that's not really something that I really wanted, but like also we weren't really in the position to be super picky. So this house kind of checked all the boxes, and when we drove up to the house, we saw there was a lot of interest, which scared me because so far this was my favorite one. We toured it, and there were some things that we didn't love about it, of course, but I just saw so much potential for this specific house. I loved so far what I had seen. We were looking to stay in a specific price point, but we did go a little bit over for this house. We put our offer in that day, and at this point it's like, I believe it's around Christmas. There were a lot of holidays that kind of slowed our process down. We put our offer in and they quickly accepted it. It turns out the people that were selling separated. I think that they just wanted to get rid of it, to not have to deal with each other anymore. And that kind of was beneficial to us because I really wanted this house. I really thought we were gonna get like a starter house that I was gonna hate and we were just gonna live in while we settled and then get rid of it, but we really got something that I really like and I think we can really do a lot with. I do love the area that we moved to. I love our house. I think there's a lot of things that we can do to it for the future. It was an interesting process. Had some inspectors. I don't know, we were here quite a bit, not a lot, but we were here a couple times before we closed. And the entire time I'm just holding my breath because I am not sure that it's gonna go through, because I never really celebrate anything until it happens, because I am, if anything can go wrong, I feel like it will go wrong, especially to me, considering everything that had happened before that. I didn't want to get my heart broken in case anything happened, which I think regardless it would have broken if something had happened, because then we would have to start the whole search again. It would have sucked. Our closing time comes around and it turns out there's an issue with something, and this kind of pushed back our by a couple days, which was devastating to me because I was looking to get into this house as soon as possible, and at that point I didn't know how much longer it was going to take. I think it didn't even take a week, but it was a couple days, and then there was a holiday, so it was just a couple days. And it's still an issue that we are dealing with to this day, but it's not anything too serious. so it's fine. It turns out we would have actually probably had to push back the closing a little bit because the person still living here didn't get their stuff out on time. I felt really lucky because we had literally only looked at 3 houses, and it was the weekend, I believe it was the weekend after we had met with our realtor for the first time. And also, we did have a family event that day that was going to prevent us from looking at this house that I am literally in right now. But I don't know what happened and it was canceled, which is crazy. So I don't know if we would have gotten it if it weren't for that either. So once we moved in, we kind of figured out that they didn't end up cleaning the house, which was very annoying because, to give some context, a lot of the lights weren't working when we were touring the house. So it was very dark, especially it was winter, so the sun went down earlier. So we couldn't really see a lot of the house. That was like one of the things you're kind of annoyed about. So when we moved in and it was empty of furniture and everything, we realized how disgustingly dirty it was. It literally looked like they didn't clean the entire time they were here, which we later found out they were here for 2 years. So that also like didn't give us a lot of negotiating power for closing and getting things fixed. But anyways, we move in, it's disgusting. There's layers of grime on the floor and I had to clean it. It took probably 2 weeks because I was also working a lot at that time, a lot more than I am now. So it did take a couple weeks to get the house clean. I would say when I was getting closer to finishing getting the house cleaned up, I got a message from someone we knew asking if I wanted one of her cats, which these cats we had previously met at a holiday party and I fell in love. They were so beautiful. I'd never seen a cat like this before in my life. Literally the most beautiful cats I've ever seen in my life. And I messaged her back and I wanted her boy because I thought 2 boys would get along better than a boy and a girl. Moose is now 8 years old. Like what? That's insane. But James said we should take the girl because she was younger. And he thought they would get along better than 2 boys. So we ended up asking for the girl. We just needed a little bit more time to bring her home. And that is Charlotte. That's how we got our little Charlotte. My plan once we had moved in and settled was to foster kittens and see how it would go. So we kind of just jumped into it with getting Charlotte. I think Bengals are a lot, definitely, and we learned so much, but she also has brought so much happiness into our life because if we're honest, Moose doesn't really do much. He kind of just sleeps all day and he's kind of been like that forever, but I feel like she is such a character that she brought such a presence into our life. And last month, at the beginning of the month, she escaped. I was at work and I get a call from James saying Charlotte got out, and I was stressing out. They had told us that she had escaped once from their house and she came back the next day. So I was very hopeful. I just asked them what they did. So I was hoping the same thing would happen. Apparently, while I was driving back home, James had caught her a couple times, but she kept getting away. And I think this is just important for later. He like physically was holding her, like I think at least 3 times, and she kept going away. So I come home, we call and look around for her, and we see her, and then we lose her. We don't know where she went because she runs really fast actually. So we kind of call it and we come inside. We leave, oh, this is the crazy thing. We left all of our doors open because we just wanted her to come back in. And she did come back in. James woke up, he saw her talking to Moose. We had locked Moose in this room. because clearly we had the doors open. We didn't want to risk him running out too. James saw them talking to each other, but as soon as she locked eyes with James, she ran because she probably knew he was gonna try to grab her. But I was completely devastated. We don't have kids yet, but they are our kids, right? And we only had her for such a short amount of time. We got her in February, so we were really devastated. I felt really dumb and irresponsible, and I was very, very mad at us. Do my settings spray, and I think we're gonna be done with makeup for now. Also, how she got out. I had opened the kitchen window because I was cooking something and it kind of stuck up the room. And the screen had a little bit of a hole, but it was a small hole, so I didn't think anything of it. We did try to close all the windows every day, but we just both missed it that day. And she was able to get out. It did take her some time. What we think happened was she tried to get into the hole and she couldn't, so she had to pull back because we found her collar right outside of that window. So we definitely think that's what happened. And I don't know how many times she did that, but she got out. We're extremely careful now, of course. The second night, we saw her again. Where did we see her? I think we closed the back door because we closed the back door because we thought she came in through the front door. And I woke up and I saw her sleeping by the back door. But again, as soon as I got up, she ran. And we kind of were just going through that cycle every single day for a couple days. We would see her, she would run. So we kind of just had to, at that point, we figured out we just had to trap her. And we put some food with a cage. At that point, we had gotten cameras. We saw her come into the house on the 5th night. James literally left through a window to try to trap her in, but it didn't work. Luckily, she was hungry enough and came back the same morning, and we got her and we took her to the vet. She looked so rough and she was sunburned. It was so sad, but besides that, she was healthy, which we were very happy about. We brought her home, let her out so she could see her brother again. Wiz was acting like he had never met her before in his life. And I will say their relationship, it hasn't gone back to what it was. They were starting to cuddle, and like I haven't seen them cuddle, but then again, it might be because she is pregnant. So yeah, she did get what she wanted from that trip. And we also got her a leash and a surgical suit to put on top of the leash. Otherwise, they are able to take it off. And that's the only thing I've seen on Reddit that works to keep a cat's leash on. So we did it, and we took her outside one day, and she hated it. Her tail was big. She was running around, like freaking out. She wasn't even running, she was like jumping, like freaking out. So it turns out she's not even a fan of the outdoors. Turns out the heat just really got to her. So she got what she wanted. She's pregnant. She's been pregnant for a month. So we have like another month to go. But she has kind of been our little light of joy. The happiness of buying a house kind of wore down. There's a lot that comes with buying a house, and it's very stressful. Where are we now? I am still looking for a job. It's been very difficult because I am basically applying every day, and most of the time I don't hear anything back. I have been on a couple interviews, but nothing has really landed. We had a acquaintance tell me about a job, and then I applied and interviewed, and then they were told they actually were not allowed to hire for that role. They weren't busy enough basically for it. So it's been difficult. So at this point, I've given my career 2 years to kind of flourish, to like, you know, plant the seeds. I've done what I can at this point. I did get 2 certifications that were supposed to help me get a job, and it doesn't seem like it's helped. I've lowered my standards by a lot. Nothing's really happened. So at this point, I've decided to come back to the internet. I don't know if there's much more I can do for now with that besides just applying every day. and going to interviews, but I just need to have something else because it's very draining to have that constant rejection. My job is not doing too well. The industry as a whole isn't doing too well, so there have been some cuts made, which has been a little bit difficult, but we're doing okay for now. It's just figuring out how we can be in a better position. I'm definitely gonna start trying to sell my cakes, but that's gonna take some time to kind of build up. In Vegas, it kind of just came naturally. People were asking me because they had seen the cakes that I had made. I don't know, it just came very naturally. They asked me. It wasn't something that I was doing necessarily, but I did have quite a few requests right before I was moving. It was crazy. It was a lot of work because I was also working full-time there, so it was a lot. I was very tired a lot, but I don't really have a lot to focus my time on now, so here we are. We're gonna try to revamp my YouTube. I'm gonna go and finish getting ready. Yeah, I'm very excited to kind of explore Washington and just bring you guys along. I haven't really done much here. Hard to summarize 3 years of your life in a video, but those were some of the highlights. I'm glad to bring you guys along on the ride, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.